It's a good day to brew, baby. What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Millsy, back at home in Time Grander, back for another episode of Millsy Brews, the show where I brew version 1.0 deck list of the commander in front of us on my quest to brew the magic world. You know the motto, baby. It's ABB, always be brewing, and that's what we're back to do today. The deck list is going to be down in the description for you below, so I'd really appreciate it if you could interact with the video. Like, comment, subscribe. Consider checking out the links down in the description. We got the Discord opened up. Mikey and I are in there chatting. You want to come chat with us? As I just launched our own Millsy Brews merch. Always be brewing, baby. Check it out in the description below. But today we're back to Isshin again. I wanted to update it at the end of the year because I still have a heart for this deck. I still love this deck. It's a ton of fun, and it's always fun to see what new sets add for us. Isshin is a Marduk costed 3/4. If a creature attacking causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. It's a very smallly worded ability, but it means a ton. Whenever anyone's creature attacks, and we have a card that has an ability that carries out a creature attacking, it goes off the second time. There's a lot of ways to approach this. My Isshin build is definitely more about attacking rather than defending, but I think there's a lot of great abilities both ways. So we're going to talk about the triggers that we're going to double, and then we're going to talk about just getting extra damage. At the end of the day, we're an attacking deck. That's what we want to do. I'm not going to sit here and make it any prettier than it actually is. We want to attack. We want to attack. We want to attack. Burn that into your head when you're playing Isshin. Attacking matters, and that's all our deck's trying to do. So most of the creatures in our deck care about attacking. Adeline, a great creature because it doesn't even have to attack in order to get its ability. But whenever we attack for each opponent, make a 1/1 token that's tapped and attacking that player. So with Isshin out, you make 2 1/1s attacking everybody. This will matter later when we get into our damage, why that really matters. But hey, then Adeline becomes a star 4, restars the number of creatures we control. Adriana has melee and gives all other creatures melee, which says whenever this creature attacks, it gets +1/+1 for each opponent you attack this combat. That means that if you're attacking all of your opponents, all your creatures with melee are going to get +6/+6, a huge buff for creatures wanting to get towards that combat. The new Alesha feels really good. Whenever it attacks, it puts a counter on itself. Remember, that gets doubled to 2 because of Isshin. But at the beginning of our end step, if we attack this turn, we get to reanimate a creature with mana value less than or equal to Alesha's power, which is huge. To be able to bring some of these key creatures back and take advantage of them even after they get destroyed. Aurelia, the Law Above, is an example of a offensive and defensive creature. Whenever a player attacks with 3 or more creatures, we draw a card. That could be us or another player, right? And that'll get doubled. And then whenever a player attacks with 5 or more creatures, Aurelia deals 3 damage to our opponents and we gain 3 life. Again, that could be us or somebody else. So just a really important ability either way. Same thing with Brina. Whenever a player attacks one or more of your opponents, if that opponent has more life than any of your other opponents, that attacking player draws a card and you put 2 counters on a creature you control. It's a word salad of an ability, but the point is, if players are attacking other opponents, and if that opponent has more life than any of your other opponents, you get to draw. That player gets to draw a card, but importantly, you get to put counters on your creatures, getting them bigger and making them more of a problem. It's your choice whether or not you think giving up card draw is important to your opponents. Remember that you can get that card draw from Brina by attacking yourself. Caustic Bronco seems really interesting here. Since whenever it attacks, you can reveal the top card of your library and put it into your hand. You lose life equal to that card's mana value unless it was saddled. Otherwise, each opponent loses that much life. And that, to me, seems really good. To be able to do that twice, get cards and deal damage. And Isshin's the perfect power and toughness to saddle Caustic Bronco. So you can do that, deal some damage to your opponents in the process. Delina is a card that I've always enjoyed. Whenever it attacks, you get to pick a creature we control and roll a d20. 1 through 14, we just make a copy of it that's tapped and attacking, except it's not legendary, and we lose it at the end of combat. And 15 to 20, we create one of those tokens, but we roll again. And we get to do that twice with Isshin, right? There's a lot of different creatures you can choose. And there's a lot of great creatures in the deck. And the only thing to remember about who you're going to choose is that because you've already declared your attacks, anything that has an attack trigger won't get to happen because it came in tapped and attacking. But there's still a lot of benefit we can make from that. We're playing the new General Kree because we do have a couple really good goblins that care about attacking. Whenever one or more goblins we control attack, we make a goblin that's tapped and attacking. And then the big ability, whenever another creature comes in, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. Here's Impact Tremors on a creature, and we love it because we're playing as many of those effects as we can get since we have so many creatures that make tokens on attack. Goldspan makes a treasure whenever it attacks or becomes the target of a spell, and then lets those treasures tap for 2 mana. A killer ability, leading to 4 extra mana every turn as long as it's out with Isshin, and we will take it every day of the week. Jackrabbit's going to make some rabbit tokens, not attacking, but just make some rabbit tokens equal to its power. So again, getting those twice right when it attacks is a big deal, especially when we start pairing it with those impact tremor style abilities. Kellogg makes a treasure whenever it attacks, so 2 with Isshin out. We can sack 5 treasures to gain control of a creature for as long as we control Kellogg. Not a banned ability, but kind of beneficial. I think just the 2 treasures is worth it, especially the 3 mana creature. Another goblin that makes creatures on attack, Krenko, Tin Street, Kingpin. Whatever it attacks, you put a counter on it and make goblins equal to its power. You do that twice, getting you incrementally more goblins, right? A great ability, and again, really great once you pair them with those damaging effects. One of my friend Andrew's favorite commanders, Othari's Sun's Glory. Whenever it attacks, you get an experience counter and then make a bunch of 2/2 rebels that are tapped and attacking for each experience counter you control. Again, doubling up with Isshin means you're getting more and more of them. And again, great damage when you have the impact turns out. The other nice part is you can sacrifice. You can tap an untapped rebel you control to bring Othari back. So if Othari dies, you have a chance to get it back without having to reanimate it. Skyhunter Strike Force giving all of our creatures melee. It has melee, and then as long as we control our commander, all our other creatures have melee. So again, Adriana and Strike Force is doing a very similar thing. And then one of my favorite newer cards in the deck, Warren War Leader. Whenever you attack, you choose one. Make a 1/1 rabbit that's tapped attacking, or give all your creatures +1/+1. If you offspring it out, that means +4/+4 for all your creatures that combat. That's a huge attack buff. That was not the right slide. I'm sorry. Launch the Fleet. It's a fun spell, so you get to pay 1 for each target beyond it to copy it. It says until end of turn, any number of target creatures gain. Whenever this creature attacks, make a soldier that's tapped and attacking. This is important because it's giving the creatures that ability, meaning that it will then be doubled with Isshin to go off twice, which is huge for just a couple mana. Think about it. For 2 mana, you're getting 4 soldiers. For 3 mana, you're getting 6. For 4, you're getting 8. I mean, you could start to see where this value is going up, right? Blade of Selves giving a creature Myriad, which is an attack trigger, is pretty cool. So whenever it attacks, you can create a token that's a copy of it attacking each other player. You obviously want to put Blade of Selves on a non-legendary creature so you can get those copies, right? But again, here's a potential way to just have some more creatures come in and get some more creatures into combat, and again, it doubles. So one player gets 1, the other 2 players get 2 copies of that creature with Myriad. Inquisitorial Rosette says whenever the equipped creature attacks, you make a 2/2 that's with vigilance that's attacking, and then all of our creatures get menace. Obviously, the double menace isn't going to make a difference, but I think the important part is you're getting 2 tokens and the menace, and now your creatures are a little bit safer, including those 1/1s that may be attacking, right, with some of our other creatures. A 1/1 with menace is strictly better than a 1/1 without it, right? And that makes it important. Fervent Charge says whenever a creature we control attacks, it gets +2/+2. So with Isshin, basically handing them all +4/+4. A great ability, especially for those 1/1 tokens. Now, of course, the 1/1 tokens of something like Adeline, right, won't get the buff. But if something like Krenko or General Crete make a token last turn and it attacks this turn, then it gets to buff, and you can start to see where that's going to happen and affect us really well on future turns. Legion Loyalty may be a big cost at 8 mana, but it gives every creature we control Myriad. That's huge because remember, Myriad's going to go off twice. And the thing to remember with some of the damage dealers we're going to talk about on the next slide and Myriad is that if you make a copy of a legendary creature, the copies are still going to hit the battlefield. You're just going to have to sacrifice them immediately. And that means that things like Impact Tremors, will still see them come in and will still deal damage, which is very important. Mario Ascendancy says that whenever a non-token creature we control attacks, we get to put a goblin tapped and attacking. So again, 2 per creature, right? Feels pretty good, and you can sack it to give your creatures a little toughness buff, maybe to survive them in combat. But again, another great ability for just 3 mana to start going, having our board go wide and having our opponents have to try to deal with it. But I think this is where the deck really shines. Not just amassing these creatures. I think the important thing is you have ways to really hurt our opponent, and they come in 2 different varieties. You have things like Brutal Horde Chief and Hellrider, which have very similar abilities. Horde Chief says whenever a creature you control attacks, defending player loses a life and you gain life. And Hell Rider says whenever a creature you control attacks, it deals 1 damage to the player or planeswalker it's attacking. The point here is that's 2 damage or 2 life to the creature, it's the player that it's attacking before you even get into to combat. That means you could spread your creatures well, getting massive damage, before they even deal the damage, right? And it becomes a real threat to your opponents as they try to deal with what that is. And then the second brand of damage that we have, of 3 brands of damage, Commissar Severina Reign says whenever it attacks, each opponent loses X and we gain X, just loses X, where X is the number of other attacking creatures. That's a huge ability, especially because you'll notice on some of those abilities it said creatures came in tapped and attacking. So for Severina's Reign ability, if we have it go off last, that means that it'll see those creatures that came in tapped and attacking. And remember, with Isshin out, that ability will get doubled. The one I got confused with was Mishra here on this page. Mishra says whenever you attack, each opponent loses X and we gain X, where X is the number of attacking creatures. So same thing. Losing X and gaining X twice before we even get into damage, before we even get into blocks. And I think with these abilities, you could start to plan your attacks differently when you know these are going to go off. Maybe you don't full swing at one player because you know you're going to dome them for 8 or 10 or 12 or 14, whatever it is with these double triggers. And you can spread your attacks out better. There's different ways to kind of manage your attack step when you know kind of what these different pools of damage are. And then Impact Tremors and War Leader's Call are what I talked about. Whenever a creature comes in, deals 1 damage to each opponent. Again, these won't get doubled with Isshin, but I mean, they're going to stack up over the course of a game, especially the more of them that we can have, just to really take advantage of these tokens coming in on attack and just really hurting our opponents. But I've said it before on the show, and I'll say it again. No deck's ever complete. Even though we've looked at Isshin before, every new time we come back to a deck, there's still things we can learn in testing. And the thing I took from it this time was some of the classic attack effects I took out of it to see if they need to come back in. I mean, the one that I took out that I really want back in is Rabble Rousing. I love this card. I think it still fits well in Isshin. I just did it because I wanted to show off new things like Crete and some new cards like Alatia. But I think in testing, we could see how efficiently we need something like Rabble Rousing to come back in. It has Hideaway, so when it comes in, you can look at the top 5, put one underneath it, and potentially cast it for free later. But the ability we care about is whenever you attack with 1 or more creatures, create that many 1/1 citizens. So just you attack with 5 creatures, you get 5 citizens. But remember, Isshin will make it 10, right? So much potential for Impact Tremors and things like that. Karazakar seems interesting. Whenever you attack a player, you tap a creature that player controls and goad it. That would get doubled, right? And whenever an opponent attacks one of your opponents, you and the attacking player each draw a card and lose a life. So that would actually get doubled as well, drawing 2 cards, losing 2 life, right? So you could start to see where that could stack up for you. And then Atali, that classic, whenever it attacks, exile the top card of each player's library. You can cast any number of spells from them without paying their mana cost. I love the ability. It just doesn't have haste, so I wanted to kind of focus on some more of the new cards and see if that's something we want to get back into. Let's get into our playtests and have some fun. Playtest number 1, there's seeing a 2-lander with the Talisman, Crete, Blasphemous Edict for some removal, Mass Removal, Krenko, and Othari. A great starting hand. We're just 1 or 2 mana off having some real fun. I like the Path of Ancestry there, turn 1. It's going to make our turn 4 or turn 3 a little bit awkward, but I think at this point, well, that actually does help. I was thinking about playing the Boobiak this turn, but I think it's just Forge into the Indulgence. Now we have our 3 colors for Isshin. So you can either take this turn off for Isshin. We could take the turn with the tap land and just do Isshin, or we could play this untapped and do Isshin. The only reason I kind of want to do this and do Isshin this turn is then now next turn we could actually play the Othari, which can attack that turn, or we could do the Crete. There's different options, right? But turn 4, 5 mana on board. I mean, it's either Crete or Othari. I think there's arguments for both, but I think Othari would be my choice. Not only that, because it can at minimum because it can attack this turn, which means we're going to get its ability this turn. So we get an experience counter off the first one, right, and make 1 rebel. And then we get a second experience and get 2 rebels, right? So that's 3 rebels just this turn. They get to attack whoever we want, and that's pretty great. And I think this turn, now with 6 mana, I think we Krenko plus Crete. Unfortunately, Krenko can't attack this turn, but that's A-okay. I think Athari still attacks again. We'll miss out on the goblins here, but I think the important part is, right, on the first trigger from Authority, 3 rebels, and on the next trigger, 4 rebels. That's 7 damage because of Crete this turn before these rebels even get into combat. Yes, some of them might have died last turn, but the point is now you have some damage coming off because of the Crete. And if we untap with Crete and Krenko, this is even better, right? Because then Caesar's a great draw this turn, actually. So we play Caesar, and we'll talk about Caesar in a second. But here you swing with Othari, Krenko, Crete, and Caesar. And Caesar we'll get into a second. Again, whole other commander in its own right. I would do Othari first. 1, get 5, and then get 6. So you're talking about 11 more damage this turn. Krenko puts a counter on itself, making a couple goblins. Puts a counter on itself again, making 3 goblins. That's 5 more damage there. So that was 11 plus 5 is 16. Crete makes 2 goblins. So that's now up to 18. And then Caesar goes off. Whenever we attack, we can sacrifice another creature. If we do, we choose 2. We'll just sacrifice a rebel. We make 2 of the soldiers that he makes. So that's 2 more damage from them. And then we just dome somebody for the number of tokens we have, which is we're well near 20, 25. Dome somebody we didn't attack, right? Because we know that all these triggers are going to go off, so we can plan our attacks. Now our other opponents have to deal with almost all of these coming in, tapped and attacking. The goblins won't, the soldiers do, and the rebels are. So we could plan those attacks out, right? Really start hitting our opponents, and now they have to wipe the board, right? Otherwise they're just in trouble. Yeah, a little Magic Christmas landy there on the attacks, but the point is, you get to see how you could stack some of those triggers if you see them all at the same time. Here, keeping a 3-lander with a Lesha Karlach for an extra combat. Yes, Karlach will net you the extra actually net you 2 extra combats. Your creatures just won't be untapped for the second one, but we could get there when we get there. And then War Leader's Call. So not bad. Again, we're looking for ideally another land, to really keep the party going. And there we got it in the swamp. So play the Graven Cairns and just keep it moving. Again, we're just trying to get things down. Not really sure what to do here. I mean, if I Isshin this turn, I'm going to end up playing something that can attack next turn. So I think I'll just play the War Leader's Call. Get it down, right? Handmore Battlements is a land that can give a creature haste, or if you control it and Handmore Garrison, which is a creature, you could turn them into a big creature on the backside, which is a pretty fun thing. I think here we'll just get Isshin in, deal the damage. Actually, I think we get a Lesha in, right? Because then we could get Isshin in next turn and double up that trigger. Or do we get Karlach down and just get the extra combat in the first strike? We would just do that. Get Lush up to a 4/4. Again, it doesn't have anything to reanimate, but I think that's a-okay. Now up to 6 mana, 3 for Isshin, 3 into the Jackrabbit, just coming in with 1 counter. It doesn't matter because Jackrabbit will just get to double up, right? Some damage there. Move into combat. Again, same thing, we would get to attack 2 times with the Lesha, right, because of Karlach. Karlach gets to attack 2, dealing some damage. And we're in good shape. Remember that Jackrabbit has to attack for its ability. And then here on turn 7, I think you Kellogg, right? Launch the fleet for 3. I would pick, I guess, Kellogg, Karlach, and either of the other creatures. But the point is that's 6 soldiers, right? So you go to combat on the first combat, right? Karlach gives us another combat, right? We're making 2 rabbits. 6 of those soldiers, right? That's 8 damage off the War Leader's Call. Counter there. Then you go into the second combat. Again, same attack. 3 rabbits, right? Because of War Leader's Call. 3 rabbits again, 6 soldiers again. So that's 18 total damage this turn other than the attacks, right? And we're just going to, hit. They have first strike. Kellogg made the treasures. And then, we have the protection and the flare. We can just get rid of the Jackrabbit, protect the board, or, and I think we're in a good space here for our second playtest to kind of show here's a playtest where we just ramped off, got what we needed, and got the ball rolling. Let's get into playtest number 3, keeping a 4-lander with a Soul Ring, Inquisio Rosette, and that Goldspan Dragon. I love Goldspan in this deck. It's one you definitely want to see when you can. I think we'll just Blaze Mire into the Soul Ring, into the Rosette. You know, the Rosette we have to equip, but I think, right, get out what we can here in turn 1. Turn 2, play the Swamp. We still can't cast Isshin this turn, even if I play it or the Island or the Plaza Heroes. The point is we can't no matter what. So I think we'll just kind of take the turn off, maybe feign that we have some removal, you know, that type thing. Here on turn 3, we'll get Isshin down. Can't equip the Rosette yet, but that's a-okay. The point now is we can get Goldspan down next turn, right, and get all that value from it. So now we can Goldspan. We have 1 mana left over, but that's a-okay. We go to attack. Goldspan makes us those 2 treasures. Again, both tapping for 4. They're both tapping for 2. So we can get the Rosette on next turn. Again, the point is now that's just, you know, 4 damage from Goldspan in the air, kind of getting the board set up. Does Plaza have any way to draw? No. So here we equip to Isshin, right? Got a couple mana left up for some things. I guess we could use part of it to get the Sing It down. We'll go to attack. I mean, 2 more treasures. The Rosette gets us those 2 Astartes Warriors and Menace. So we got some attacks right now this turn. And some more treasures. So lots of treasures, lots of mana right ready up. Now all we're missing this playtest is just the creatures, right? We're unfortunately just not drawing into them. But the truth is we just keep the flare up to protect our board and just keep doing this. More Warriors, more Menace. Goldspan's making us more mana. The truth is eventually we're going to hit something to really just, you know, really just push us forward. We'll go 1 more turn just to see what we draw. I have a gut feeling it's just going to be a land because that's the fun of Moxfield sometimes. But, you know, the truth is we're just, you know, at this point we're just printing mana. You know, play the Bronco. The Bronco can't attack this turn. That's okay. More Astartes, more treasures. You know, keep the flare up to protect ourselves. And I think we're just going to chip away until we draw into more things. The Bronco is going to help next turn when it can attack to double up that trigger, right, and keep us going. Let me know what you think of Isshin down in the comment section below. I love this deck. I'll always love this style of deck. I actually chose to go with Caesar for myself that we've seen multiple times on the channel. But Andrew plays an Isshin deck I really enjoy watching every time he plays it. It's always a deck I've loved. It's just never one I've come back to because I've been playing Caesar and enjoying it. Let me know what you think of Isshin, and I